Hello, I'm James Ezimoha. Welcome to Africa News. Let's see your headlines. 80-year-old President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, cleared to run in next year's presidential election. Early election results in Guinea shows overwhelming support for new constitution. President Wavel Ramkalawan of Seychelles says he wants continuity as he seeks second term. In an exclusive interview with A News, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Wamkele Mene, says that after developing a continental strategy for strengthening public health resilience, Africa's next priority is expanding its manufacturing capacity.
The AFCFTA is a combined market of 49 countries with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. However, it is a very, very fragmented market. And if you look through economic history, the best way to achieve global competitiveness is by doing it through a region or continent, just like the European Union or NAFTA in North America. As we speak today, there is a continental value chain on vaccine production, and it spreads from Rwanda to Senegal to South Africa and Ghana and other countries. The focus now is not only a continental resilience on public health, but also continental resilience on manufacturing. We see in the auto sector an increasing desire to establish, again, continental supply chains for manufacturing of vehicles in Africa.
Uganda's Electoral Commission on Tuesday cleared 80-year-old President Yoweri Museveni to run for re-election in polls scheduled for early next year, potentially extending his rule to nearly 50 years. He has been in power for 39 years, making him Africa's fourth longest ruling leader.
Uganda's Electoral Commission on Tuesday cleared octogenarian President Yoweri Museveni to seek re-election. He is one of Africa's longest ruling leaders, and the vote, to be held early next year, could extend his presidency to nearly half a century. And that's despite Museveni saying when he took over in 1986 that the problem facing Africa was leaders who want to overstay in power. The former rebel has been credited with stabilising Uganda, promoting economic growth and combating HIV/AIDS. But his critics denounced the government's suppression of political opponents, human rights abuses and corruption scandals. Museveni's was the first candidacy approved by Uganda's election body, which evaluates whether those seeking office meet the legal requirements.
Nomination exercise for presidential candidate is already in shambles.
However, Ugandan lawyer Sarah Barite said despite having all the time to verify, the process had crashed just 2 days before nominations.
Either they are incompetent or they want to rig people out of the process.
Museveni and his government have amended the constitution twice to remove age and term limits, allowing him to remain in office.
We are the country, we are the future, we are the change we badly need.
The election is likely to see him face off once again against his much younger chief rival, Bobi Wine. He is a singer, real name Robert Chagulanyi, who leveraged his pop stardom to build a large support base among young voters.
Uganda.
Museveni defeated Wine in 2021 by a wide margin, though the latter said his victory was stolen through ballot stuffing, intimidation by security forces, and other irregularities.
In Guinea, partial results released by officials show that voters have overwhelmingly approved a new constitution, potentially allowing coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya to run for president.
Voters in Guinea have overwhelmingly backed a new post-coup constitution that could see the country's military leader Mamadi Doumbouya run for president. That's something he vowed not to do when he seized power 4 years ago. Recently released partial results show that more than 90% of Guineans voted in favour of the new constitution during last weekend's referendum. Officials say voter turnout exceeded 70%. On the streets of the capital Conakry, some residents welcomed what they saw as a peaceful ballot. This man says the first time a vote has happened without a major incident, adding, "We are proud Guineans." But others voiced frustration at the lack of civic education.
They need to explain to people in Suzu, Malinke, Kisi, forest languages, to everyone here, so they can understand. Then people can understand. They can differentiate between what is good for them or bad for them. But there is no media to explain anything. They didn't explain this to people. We went to vote blindly. Is that normal? It didn't convince me at all.
Doumbouya seized power in the West African nation in 2021. It was part of a wave of 8 coups that swept West and Central Africa between 2020 and 2023. While the referendum has been seen as a step towards democratic elections and the return to civilian rule in Guinea, opponents have criticised it as a power grab. Doumbouya's government missed a December 31st deadline in 2024 that it had set itself for a return to civilian rule. Its presidential election is currently expected to take place in December. Doumbouya has not yet said whether he intends to run for office. Guinea's 2 main opposition leaders had called for a boycott on the one-sided referendum. Cellou Dalein Diallo and opposed former President Alpha Conde's political parties have both been suspended. The parties have also not been permitted to campaign against the new constitution. Human Rights Watch has accused the government of disappearing political opponents and arbitrarily suspending media outlets. The government has denied any role in disappearances, but has vowed to investigate such allegations.
President Wavel Ramkalawan of Seychelles is seeking a second term, campaigning on promises of reform, fiscal stability and climate action. His supporters praise his anti-corruption record, while critics question whether pledges will improve households struggling with rising costs.
Seychelles President Wavel Ramkalawan is seeking re-election, highlighting reforms in governance, anti-corruption measures and investment in infrastructure, healthcare and the blue economy. Supporters see him as a steady hand continuing positive changes. Critics worry promises may not ease rising living costs. The president says he is seeking continuity and progress for the people of Seychelles.
Seychelles is number 1 on the Mo Ibrahim Index, and as far as corruption is concerned, Transparency International rated us as number 18 worldwide. And all these are positive things that have happened. And of course, we've embarked on a very ambitious program of taking care of our people. Continuity, we've laid the foundations. Now it's a question of moving it to the next step.
Supporters say they want to continue supporting democracy.
My father was one of Mancham's supporters and became a victim because he had fought for the Democratic Party in his district. So today I follow in his footsteps and continue to support democracy. When Mancham's party disappeared, we turned to the SNP, which later became LDS.
As voters head to the polls, Ramkalawan's bid tests Seychelles' appetite for continuity versus change. Observers say the election outcome will shape the island nation's democratic trajectory and reform agenda.
Johannesburg is hosting this year's G20 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance Summit. The event brings together delegates from member nations to explore new opportunities in business. It's also a platform to strengthen youth-driven innovation and global cooperation.
The G20 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance is a global alliance of over 500,000 entrepreneurs. It's a platform meant to influence policy, attract investment, and build partnerships between youth-led enterprises and global investors. The alliance is also spotlighting entrepreneurial talent and positioning South Africa as a hub of innovation, culture, and youth empowerment. Entrepreneurs such as Jard du Plessis testify that this platform has propelled their startups to better heights. Du Plessis is a co-founder of Green Screen Golf, a virtual golf simulation company. A golf simulator is a high-tech indoor system that uses specialized sensors, cameras, and software to replicate the experience of playing golf.
I think this event is incredibly important for young entrepreneurs, anybody looking to grow their dream. They'll get the tools here to do that from beginning to end. It simplifies things that you think are complicated. And I think that is why every young person needs to be at this event every year.
Over 600 delegates from G20 nations and beyond have gathered for this summit. One of their intended missions, they say, is to progress towards a world where more entrepreneurs grow businesses, create jobs, change lives, and ensure future economic prosperity.
Through the G20 Year platform, we have amplified our voice amongst the world's leading economies. We drove collaboration deliberately, we innovated happily, and we grew together. Over the years, the Alliance has forged partnerships, sparked international deals, which we witnessed this week, and showcased our dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystem. We are a platform of young voices under the age of 45 from top economies, united in ambition and united in impact. And as a co-founder, I've seen innovation ignite, partnerships ignite, the young dreams translate into global outcomes.
Young people create jobs for other young people, right? We know that when young people go into entrepreneurship, they normally employ their age mates, right? Not out of pity and what, but they understand the important role that young people have to play in our collective economies.
The Alliance convenes each year before the G20 summit to champion the importance of young entrepreneurs to the G20 member nations.
Ghana has been exporting yams to the U.S. duty-free for over 20 years under the African Growth and Opportunity Act. However, Washington's new 15% tariff could raise costs for every shipment. Exporters warn that producers may be hardest hit if American consumers resist higher prices.
Ghana has been exporting yams duty-free to the U.S. market under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, for more than 20 years. Exporters are worried that Washington's new 15% tariff means every shipment will now cost more, and producers of these yams could be the hardest hit if consumers in the U.S. are not ready to pay for their food.
Because it is not really dominating their economy, they are not really ready. They so want to pass it on to the exporter. And once you are passing it on to the exporter pass it on to the producer. So if producer was selling for maybe 2 cities, it means that the producer, the exporter will say, look, I have Y in addition, so you have to reduce that 2 cities to 1 city, maybe 80 pesos.
Under the AGOA program, a carton of yam is sold to consumers in the U.S. for between $70 and $100. But with the new tariffs, exporters say consumers are likely to pay about $120 for the same quantity of yams. Last year, Ghana exported about $1.2 billion worth of goods to the U.S. market, with apparel and textiles, yam, cashew, and cocoa, all AGOA-related products, making up a significant portion of the sales. Analysts now project that the value of exports from Ghana to the U.S. could decline with the new tariffs.
There's room and there's scope for Ghana to tap into other markets. I think particularly in East Asia. So China, we're seeing growing demand for various non-traditional exports. In Japan, there's same. And then when you come to the Western Europe, where a lot of like Ghanaian cassava and yam and cocoa products go to, again, the demand is there. And then lastly, within the African market itself.
He suggests that exporters must now seek alternative markets, including the African Continental Free Trade Area, or AFCFTA, which opens the market for 1.4 billion people on the continent to trade amongst themselves. The government says it is putting in measures to ease regulations and remove barriers so Ghanaian exporters can take better advantage of the AfCFTA. But for exporters here, adapting quickly could mean the difference between survival and collapse of their business.
Well, that's all we have today in African News. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.